Hello and welcome to the semi-regular podcast by Ryan and Rich. Join us for retro computer talk and general shenanigans. Want to play a game?
Ryan, we're back. We're back, Ryan, for another episode, aren't we?
We made it. We had a little hiccup, but we made it.
Just if we make it through 10, does that mean like we're out of our sophomore year? We're now in our junior year of podcasting? I don't know. Does that work? But everyone, thanks again. And we're kicking this off with some controversial topics right off the bat. Ryan, introduce us to the controversial topic.
Well, I don't know how controversial it is, but it's very opinionated. I will give it. I guess that is controversial, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you retro? What makes a retro experience your own? And can you do it wrong?
I don't know. I have seen some, and I have seen some kits where someone they made sure to say within quotes right away at one of the meetups that I had got this pet and everything inside was destroyed. There was no saving the parts. It was a barn find. Everything was just trash. They tried to do some work. So then they kept the shell. They put an LCD in, they put a little Pi thing in, they put a different keyboard in. So they used the shell to build this emulated pet, if that makes sense. And
yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. And then of course that opens up the discussion. There's people that are like, oh my gosh, you just ruined the case. Or, whatever modifications they had to make to the case, ruined the case for another person who had a broken case, had other things at work. And that's kind of where I think the crux comes in is where you fall into the picture of modifications or changing. Ryan, we could even get so tight about the chips.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of new options showing up chip-wise. Some FPGA replacements are appearing because some of these chips are actually getting hard to find. Yeah. And if you do find one, I know on the Amiga side, they could be hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
Which is great if you want to go down that road. I want to have some real, vintage real stuff, but I also want an option for some FPGA things as well, because I want a working machine.
Yeah.
And
I want to be on the same page.
Yeah. I want it to work, and I don't want to have to be a mortgage payment to make it work.
Yeah.
And that's what somebody's into. And
that's what I think. And even, I got all these bread bins I've been tearing apart. And I wonder when I look at a serial number on the back of the case, is this really the motherboard that was in there? Like the TSA 64, I feel 99% right. The one you got from that lady that was, buried in a basement that made its way down to me. Thank you. That it was the original motherboard in there. But if I'm picking something up from a boot sale or a swap meet, I don't know.
Right.
And so that doesn't really bother me that much. But I know that really can cause a lot of value issues, right? People could have a great serial number chassis, but is that really the right motherboard in there?
Is it really a value issue? I guess it's potentially a dollar value issue, but maybe not a personal connection value issue. Yeah, so there's multiple values. For my 1200, I did notice when I was recapping it that the serial number sticker on the motherboard is different than the one that's on the case. Which I was like, oh, they don't match. Interesting.
Okay. 64 boards don't have serial numbers, do they?
I don't know. I know the Amigas do.
I don't think so. I need to look closer, folks. Maybe I'll bring that back as an update that I dug up a few of my machines and just did some double checking, if that makes sense.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's a sticker on your board on pretty much every Amiga I've opened so far that actually has a serial number on it. And then the bottom of the case has a number on it as well. And just my 1200 didn't match. My 4000s have matched, but that 1200 didn't. And I didn't look at these 500s, to be honest. And this one I'm not taking back apart. It's on my desk right now. For those
on your chip thing, when I was looking at, I've now got working machines. I had some that had some keyboard issues, and I have some that actually have a replacement, like an ARM SID instead of a SID in there.
Sure.
I started keeping my Excel notes and treating it a little bit like a restoration. You know, I like to watch this YouTube guy called Bumgarner Restorations, and when he's done, he kind of has a sheet that says all the things he did to this painting. And I'm kind of going to do that with my 64s and the other equipment. Is as I do that, I'd be able to tell someone the story as either I'm selling that box or giving that box away, that, hey, this one's had repair on this key. I had to go work on this plunger. This one's had a different chip put in it. But I'm like you, I like a machine that's vintage all the way, but I don't care if I have to make one get a replacement chip to get up and running. I think that's perfectly cool. Yeah.
I want a machine that works and that isn't just a display piece. My goal is, for me, how I'm doing it is I want these things to work. And I want to be able to do something with them. I don't need another thing to just sit around and go, cool, pretty, funny story. No, I want to be able to boot it up. I want to be able to play a game on it. I want to go write some software. I want to do whatever, but I want it to function.
Yeah.
And that's more important to me.
All right, so I got a question for you. We've talked before, and I think maybe on the podcast, about body modifications. You were showing me a 3D print of a GoTech kind of module that you would put on top of the Amiga. And I was surprised. We're going to talk about this now, listener. That are you going to drill a hole through your Amiga so you can have this 3D part on it? How does? Because I can't see you drilling holes, Ryan.
No, that is a thing. I'll draw the line at that. I'm not going to purposely damage the case in any way possible. I'm going to look for any alternative that I can do. Drilling a hole is just not happening. So with these, what they are is this is for the Amiga 500 and the 1200. Both of them have this option. They are and a 600 does too. So they're the 64 style. So they look like a all-in-one keyboard, computer, everything.
Oh, like a 64C.
Yeah, so it's going to be big. It's bigger than that, but yeah, definitely. It's not a big box. It doesn't have a detachable keyboard. It doesn't have any of that. So it's just the machine. So in the top of them, they have vents, we'll get to that in a second, but you put a GoTech in, which is a floppy replacement. So if you don't have a floppy drive, the Amiga 500 that I'm giving you here in a couple weeks does not have a working floppy drive in it, which just doesn't work. And when I plugged it in, it actually tried to reboot your computer incessantly. So I don't know what's going on with that. So I don't recommend using it.
Sounds like a short of some type.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all. So there's a GoTech I'm giving you as a project with it. And what it's going to be is the output is a floppy connector. And then you put a USB stick in the front and, put software on it. Your ADFs, which is an Amiga disk format, all go in there. You spin this little knob and it has a little LCD panel on it. The problem is where the floppy is for the Amigas is off to the side.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd have to be looking around the side going, what is that? So what someone has made is unfortunately I don't know their name offhand, but it's unlike Thingiverse. You take the GoTech apart, put the guts in this bracket, and then you take the cable and come up through this vent at the top and put this other piece on top. And then you can mount the OLED screen in there and the little knob so you can actually see what you're trying to move the disk to, along with you just stick the USB in the side where the floppy disk.
That's beautiful. Okay, so you never have to modify. You're just feeding the wires up through the vents, and this little 3D printed device sits in those vents?
100%. They build it so it just snaps on top, and you're good to go, and now you can pay attention to it. Or it goes around the back out of a port. Like 1200 does some of that. Like I removed the RF modulator out of my 1200. Now I have an opening that I can feed cables through and things. The one adapter, even where the ejection button would have gone, they put an HDMI port in there. So if you put RGB to HDMI, so they route the cable through, and it's big enough for an RGB or a HDMI cable to plug into the side. And that's how you're getting your RGB out. And then you put the USB stick where the floppy would have went.
That's
And it's
amazing.
just perfect. Yeah, and you don't hurt the case. So
No.
if you want to reverse this, you can definitely go do it.
Now,
And that's where I'm at.
if everybody wants to watch Ryan cringe for a second, watch this. I have Bill 64. Bill 64 is an ugly case. It's like at the front, it's like somebody hit it with a round sander like 3 times. So it actually has like this like concave bits. Something rubbed it and actually put it. It's like someone took a big Dremel and went boop, boop real quick. So it has these wavy front. The case coloring is so bad, and it just won't. It's a completely bad case with a great motherboard in it. Is what it is. It's a bad case, great motherboard. I want to do like the reset button project where you bodge some wires or whatever, and I'm going to put a little button. I'm going to drill a damn hole in this case. But I know, but that's my case to do these fun modification projects. I won't be doing that to the others. There's many other ways to do the reset button on a 64 if I wanted it. But in this case, I think I'm going to build one that is all about modifications, just like when we go to the shows. I can bring it in and go, here's the one I made that has this, this, and this. And I added these 4 extra buttons, and half the people will walk by and go, why did you do that? But
yes, they will.
Yeah, I know. But that's neat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You ought to look and see if you can steal the Amiga thing on top, run some cables, some flat cables up through a vent, and then build this thing on top with a whole bunch of buttons on it. You can do things.
Or even come out one of those back ports. You know, like I don't have anything that uses the user port, right? I got a Wii modem that goes on one, and I got a cartridge input. But is it the user port then? That's that middle one? I don't know. You don't know. I know.
Yeah, I think it's the user port. I think it's where you put the printer into, but we're not going to use a printer.
Yeah, no printers. I actually I have printers. I just got to work on them.
Of course you do. Oh God, I have not acquired a dot matrix printer at this point, and I don't plan on it. I have joked to a mutual friend of ours about, you get him a dot matrix printer for them, and he's like, oh please no.
No. VCF East, there may be one, Ryan. There may be an Amiga dot matrix printer waiting for you.
No, I'm good. I know Commodore made printers, or at least I don't know if they made them, but they were Commodore branded printers. Yeah. I do not need a dot matrix printer. I'm good.
You'll live with that.
But that is an option to like go out that port and come around the back, because there is some stuff for a 1200 also, but they're just shipping cables out the back, and then you have all this stuff across the top and these snap-on things. So again, that's our different philosophies, right? So I'm not gonna do that on purpose.
I'm drilling holes.
If there's already one there,
I'm drilling holes.
Oh, I know you are. It's so bad.
I'll send you pictures. Okay, before we move on to our next topic, let me show you something. Do you see the C64 behind me on display?
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to read. So for everyone, I work with a job that we do a lot of video conferencing, and I work in sales. So I have a very interesting background behind me. I always alter things in it. And while I'm in calls, people are like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And it's just kind of instead of that boring, fuzzy background. Right. I went to Michael's, and I found these things called easel holders for pictures. They're just they're just a really little black wiry thing. It almost looks like like a coat hanger wire that's been wound, and they're bendable. They're bendable because they're metal. Oh, awesome. And so Sarah saw these. I went and grabbed 6 of them because I'm going to create a little retro computer display behind me, and look how well that works. I can bend it to a really nice angle, and I was looking at 3D printing, and it was like, oh my gosh, I don't think my bed's big enough. And seriously though, this was, I think, $4.99 for one of these. So FYI, Ryan, just for you guys. Or I'll put a link if anybody is curious about how to display their retro items in the wrap up.
Perfect. For you, I know our listener can't see this, and I didn't change the color of the filament, but you see this is an Amiga 1200.
Wow.
There is a user port in the back. So someone had put a bracket in there, and I printed this little thing that fits in that user point, and this is for my SD card. So this SD card has a cable running across it inside over to where the IDE controller is, and an IDE to SDE or IDE to SD adapter with a long extension cable, so I could just pop that SD card in and out without having to take it apart.
That's awesome. That looks really nice. Everyone, it looked really neat. That looks really well done. If your filament color would have been that Amiga, I probably wouldn't even have noticed.
Right, and I should have printed it with that, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I have some, and then this is where the RF adapter was, and I took it out because who uses that? And now I have another hole in here for if I'm going to do something else, like get a. There's a video option that gives you HDMI out for this thing. A board will go in there and pop over some chips, and that'd be a way to get HDMI out of it. But that's just something that I have no qualms modifying it. I have no qualms blending. Some people want everything original. I have no problems putting a Raspberry Pi in there or an adapter or something to give me an easier use. I don't want CRTs sitting around, and I have more than I want. And I want HDMI so or VGA or something that a normal monitor can actually use, so I can actually enjoy the machine that I have.
That's really another one of those points of view, right? There's folks that want the CRT, they want the disk drive, they want the tape drive, they want all the pieces, and then they use it. And then there's us who says, "Oh, I need an easy way to get this on a monitor, and I just want to use my equipment in the fashion it was." Even though those keyboards get me every time I'm typing, because things are moved around on our keyboards compared to theirs. So that's always funny for me that I'll go to do something. I'm like, wrong button, because my brain's trying to do it, not my, looking. But dude, keyboards. Yeah. Both of us have had quite a keyboard couple of weeks. I know I did pick up from Retro Rewinds the Diag harness for the 64 and the 128, and I got the 64 cartridge because I've started the test and I'm working on repairing all the bread bins. And by the way, everyone, TSA 64, clean, not one issue. It threw up an issue on the joystick ports, but once get this, dude, the Diag kit, right? I went to go read the manual for it. Guess what year the manual's from?
I don't know, like 1992 or something.
Dude, you're right. How'd you do that? You are exactly right. I laughed so hard because I did not realize the Diag kit is actually a Commodore 64 product, basically. They used it back in their repair shop. And the manual was from Commodore. So I'm sitting there using this, and I freaked out for a second going, isn't that cool? I am using like a 90 to 30-year-old manual, something like that.
Right. I mean, you're at a point, even all the Commodore stuff, that 92, the Amiga was almost done at that point, but not quite yet. They had a little bit more at the end of 93, 94, early 94 before they went bankrupt. But we're frozen in time.
Yeah.
We really are.
It's neat. I thought it was pretty cool. I got a kick out of it that I was using a manual that someone else had used in 1992. And as I mentioned, TSA 64 passed flying colors.
Nice.
Bill 64 passed on the motherboard, but I had a bad A key. So that led me down the road of stripping it apart and cleaning and checking plungers. And then I moved the plunger, and the problem moved with the plunger. So that made me feel like it's not a membrane. I just have a backboard, right, with all the traces. It made me feel like I was on that road that my plunger was having issues. I bought carbon paint as we had texted, and it worked. I used a little toothpick, and I just took this carbon paint, which by God, the amount I used, Ryan, I can fix 3 million keyboards before I'm out of carbon paint.
I don't doubt that. Just for reference, I was recommended another product as well called Keypad Fix. It looks the exact same thing from the little picture. It's just a little jar of carbon, looks like a black paint.
That's what mine looks like. I bet you we bought the same thing. I just bought it a different way. Yeah.
This is this little container. It's I don't know what it is. 0.3 fluid ounces, which will last me till infinity, I imagine, or as long as I am the custodian of these items. Yeah, it was super cheap.
Yeah.
It was recommended. Oh, contains carbon and a non-toxic binder. Yep, that's same.
Yep. So if anybody listening goes, I have a key that when I press it, it works 1 out of 3 times, or maybe it doesn't work 1 out of 3 times. Maybe
Right.
it's 50-50. Odds are you have something like that. So, there's
Yeah.
lots of great videos out there that you can watch. I know there's a lot of folks that get into it and they actually talk the technicals. Whereas on my video, I was like, I'm going to paint this on. Let's see what happens. And then I was like,
Fair
I
enough.
think it dried enough. And I started using it and it worked fine. So I got lucky. So I'm
Yeah.
going to go on to probably Buzzy. I don't know if you remember, there was one we turned on that was a black screen that made noise. So
Yes.
Buzzy 64 will probably be my next attempt. And that's where I expect to, if I have keyboard issues, I know what to do now. But I also expect this will be the time I have to start dealing with chip swapping. That I know Bill 64 is great. And this board, maybe it's the PLA. So I'll swap and see what happens. If I do that, Ryan, and I take a bad PLA chip and move it into my good 64 and to test to see if the problem follows the chip, is that a standard? Is that a good logic idea? Or is it like, oh no, dude, you don't want to put a bad chip on your good motherboard?
For the 64, I don't know for sure. I know it. Everyone I watch from the Amiga world, this is not uncommon.
They just swap them back and forth.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, that didn't work, or it did, or it didn't. I don't know 100% for the 64, but it would be something I would definitely do.
Now, do you have a diag kit for your Amigas, or do you just go off of your detective skills?
No, I have diag kits.
Okay.
There are several different ones, actually. There's some software-based one called Amiga Test Kit, which will, if your Amiga will come up and boot, you can put this in. It's a little disk. It boots up pretty quick. So it'll do memory tests for you.
Okay.
There's a keyboard test. It pops up so you can hit all the keys and it'll light them up on the screen.
Awesome.
Which is how I figured out our keyboard. The keyboard issue on these pair of 500s I've been working on had issues with that. It's like, oh, and then based upon what happens, I was like, oh, okay, I have an idea of what's going on. There's a ROM that you can put in instead of the Kickstart ROM.
Oh,
it's called a diag ROM.
Yeah.
And it defaults and has a serial access as well. So you plug it into another machine and it'll give you, like with a null modem, and you can get serial out of it if your Amiga's healthy, at least somewhat healthy. Yeah. So there's that. I bought a Retro Rewind CA. I have a thing that plugs in the back for your parallel and serial ports. It's like a loopback, so you can run it with Amiga Test Kit, and it'll light up lights on the loopback device, so you can test that as well. So there's a couple different options.
The dead cart is on my list. I don't know if I need it yet. Buzzy may make it to where I do need the dead cart, and I haven't bought it yet, but that's on my list to get to.
This thing was like, I think it was like 20, 25 Canadian, I think.
Oh yeah,
and I was buying other stuff anyway, so I was like, throw it in there.
It looks like their prices are really solid at Retro Rewind. I don't know. Maybe I imagine there's a small premium because everyone has to win, right? They got to make some money. I got to get a quality product, and so I might pay a little more than some of these things where I could probably do them myself, right? I could have made my own diag kit, but yeah, what if I didn't make it right? And now I'm testing everything, you know. But anyways, dude, keyboards, you've been up to okay, my keyboards are happy. And by the way, once I cleaned that one keyboard, I went back and cleaned 2 other keyboards because I did not realize how dirty they were, and they looked fine. But when I got done in my, I used a little painter's cup to wash them in. The water, once I looked at it, once they sat for a little bit, just shook it up, agitated. Weren't even really wiped down, just agitation. It was like dirty water. I mean, like much dirty. And I was like, okay, I'm doing my other machines. And boy, they all look so much better now. Ooh.
Oh, yeah. They look great. They definitely look. I've done the same thing. I bought this little cap kit puller, pulling things off, putting them in. I'm just using like Dawn and water.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Dawn, water, and a toothbrush. So I'll let them sit, pop up one, and I'll scrub it down with a toothbrush and drop it in clean water. And it's gross.
Yeah.
It's like, 30 years, 40 years of guck.
I did find my Bill 64 has a replacement key where
Okay.
obviously it's the right key. It has been cleaned from whatever number was on it originally, and a
Yeah.
new, like a little printout sticker was put on it. You don't
Awesome.
really notice when you're working. And I was like, oh, wow, how have I never noticed that? But, it happens. It happens.
No, yeah. The 1 500 I cleaned. I was lazy and did not take the caps off and just put IPA on a toothbrush and
Yeah.
was like wiping stuff off that way. And that worked. I mean, it's good. It's way better than what it was. It got a lot of the obvious crap off. And how the keyboards are, I took Q-tips and I can slide them up, put IPA on the heads and slide it underneath the keys because they fit.
Oh,
And it's just sucking up dust as it's going through. And by the time I came up to the side, I was like, oh my God, there's so much gook under here. But I'm looking at this 500 to be the 500 I take somewhere,
yeah.
let people play on it. Is going to be good enough as far as I'm concerned. But
Well, how were your keyboard repairs? I know you had a couple going on.
yes, there were two 500s. I have three 500s I was playing with to see what's going on. Two of them had keyboard issues. So the Amiga test kit was super helpful in this aspect. Even though the keys themselves didn't work, the ones that I wanted to work, right? One of the F keys that I needed, the mouse worked on the computer, so it gives you mouse control, so you can click on the test that you want to run, the keyboard, and then you can hit the buttons, and then it'll light up if something, it senses. So I had complete columns missing, and how the Amiga stuff is laid out is, if you have a complete column missing, you probably have a break in a circuit. They have columns and rows is how they're doing their keyboard layout in general.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, well that's good because that means something's happening. The keyboard controller chip is fine because it's doing whatever. The light on the keyboard was coming on, like the power light and stuff. So I'm okay, that's cool. Caps light wasn't working on either of them, but not surprising because that key didn't work either. So the power goes across that for that little LED.
Oh.
So with an Amiga, sorry, dear listener, I'm holding this up to Rich. There's this thing called a membrane in it. It's this little plastic thing with traces, and carbon pads are on this membrane, and it has a little connector on it, like an edge connector to go onto the thing.
Hold on. If I had to draw a picture for everyone, I'd say, remember being in class and you had that overhead projector where they took the piece of plastic and they put it on and they put up on the wall and they used a marker to do like math or whatever. It
100%.
looks to be that thick. And then when you say traces, it actually looks like a PCB, that it has lines going from these contact points all over the place. So it's very sensitive or very fragile. Fragile is what that tells me. It tells me it's fragile.
It's flexible, no problem. And you're correct with the PCB. So you can go to, I almost ordered like 5 of them from PCB Way. Someone has
PCB Way.
Right. Someone has a model out there and you can just order them. And then they'll print them because it's a flexible.
PCB Way will print a flexible membrane like that?
Yes.
Oh, that is so cool. I had no idea they even did things like that. PCBs, I think of all the hard, PCBs. I don't think of something like that. That's pretty cool, Ryan. I didn't know we could even get those new.
I didn't either until I realized I needed 2 of them. And I did some searching, and there's whoever made it just put it out on PCB Way, and you can search for it. It's a lot of the Amigas use a Mitsumi keyboard. The 500 uses this. A lot of 2000s use it. The 4000s use them. So it's a pretty standard, highly used keyboard in the Amiga world. So each one of these has traces that go to this little ribbon pin at the top. And I was just using a continuity tester and tracing out the pins and going, oh, okay, where's stuff going? And I'm looking on the board, on the membrane, and going, these are connected, but they're not. I'm not getting continuity. And I look closer, and it's like, oh, yeah, these 2 traces are borked.
Oh, wow.
So, and you could actually see them where the trace is broken. And you can try to fix them.
I was going to say, could you bodge wire that, or was that just impossible? You're going to melt everything trying to put the bodge wire in.
There's people that have done it. I don't know that my skills are necessarily there. If there's only was one of them, I probably would have tried it, but there were several.
Okay.
And I was looking for a time versus money aspect.
Yeah.
And I didn't really. Granted, it took 2 weeks for them to show up, but I did not order them from PCBWay. I ordered somebody else had them in Germany and got them ordered from there. PCBWay, I had to order 5. I didn't need 5. I needed 2.
Yeah, we had a talk the other day just on the phone about that. Of you find people selling these things ones or twos because they only needed 2 and they had to order 10. And so
Right.
now they're like, I'll just put them on eBay, and
Yep.
they find homes. They find homes.
Oh yeah, definitely, because someone else is like me going, I need 1. I don't need 5. What am I going to do with that? It was going to be about $220 to order 5 of them and have them shipped.
Oof.
And I was like, okay. And I got 2 of them. It was, I don't know, $70, $80.
Yeah.
So it's price per unit is higher, but my overall expenditure is less because I only needed 2.
And everyone and all dear listener about the carbon paint, super cheap, both cases. I know Ryan's was super cheap. Mine was super cheap. We're talking $10. It was some nominal number. It wasn't over 20. I can tell you.
All right. So anyway, the project worked really well, and was very, very happy with it. And now we have 2 working keyboards. 1,000,000 screws later, and all is good.
Oh my God! Did they not put enough screws on the back of those keyboards?
I think they put enough screw. Yeah, there's definitely a screw. I don't know.
I think
like 30 screws or 38.
They had to keep the rigidity somehow.
Yeah.
And the reason they keep the rigidity then is all those screws. Because I started taking apart mine, and I was going, "Geez, how many screws did they use?" And that was the only thing I could think of when I was kind of wrapping up was, I guess if you don't keep this perfectly rigid, you're going to have missed contacts because of flaps. Yep. And so kind of impressed they thought about that.
Yeah, I was very happy with it. They worked out pretty well. It was pretty easy. Once I got the pieces in, boom, went in, screwed it in, plugged it all together, and it just worked. I was like, oh, awesome. So super happy about that. That was great. So
I'm super happy about that.
Yeah, I bet you are. I was. If you have columns missing on your Amiga, more than likely you got some issue with a membrane, if that's your keyboard type. So it's a super easy fix once you have the parts. It's just time consuming more than anything else, because you got to pull off this control board and it's partially soldered in, so you got to desolder it. But other than that, yeah, it's been great. I'm happy with what happened, and we have working keyboards, and we now have working machines. For the most part.
I know.
And so that's good. Very happy about that.
Ryan, I'm gonna bring us to a close with one last question.
Okay. Sure.
We talked a lot about CrimeCon. We've talked about CrimeCon being going to the big festival. We talked about you picking up an additional event. Just walk us out. How did the AwesomeCon, CrimeCon event that I think $20 for you and $20 for the lady, and you guys went to it. How did everything come out from this interesting idea?
It started off really strong. I mean, they had a really nice layout. You had backstory going on. You've had hey, they did the investigation, some of it for you. Here's messages out of everybody's phones, text messages. And they have all the stuff around the crime scene with little numbers. It was really neat. They were very authentic. They gave you rubber gloves to put on to keep you in it. So you had to really, it's like, oh, if you're going to touch anything, you got to put on rubber gloves and then put it back to where it was. So that it started off, it was great. And I'm going to hint at a little bit at it from the wrap up part of it, because we went into we bought the ticket. So the objective was to go in and you had this little card and they asked you like 3 questions. Who do you think did it? Why did they do it? And what did they do it with? Basic 3 CrimeCons. Who, motive, and with what. We're playing Clue, which was great. We thought it was all right. Well, we kind of don't know what we're doing. Hey, we're looking forward to the wrap up. Maybe they'll walk through this in depth and everything. And we were pretty excited about it. And I think that relates a lot to your big CrimeCon. A lot of what you've mentioned, they had little crime scenes and all that was great. I had a different expectation of what the wrap up was going to be than what happened in reality. And unfortunately for me, the wrap up was an hour to an hour and 10 minutes of basic overall crime stuff. What does a criminal investigator do? What does someone that understands blood splatter and all this stuff? Which, for a comic book convention, they probably should have taken the hour of what happened with that crime scene and maybe the 20 to 30 minutes of what's everybody do. We want the last, for those old enough to remember Murder, She Wrote, we want the last, 10 minutes of Murder, She Wrote as the full blow up in an hour. Like, oh, Bob did it with the thing. Or why? What pieces of evidence led you to get there and what happened? And then with our discussion later, my experience with the mini CrimeCon is kind of what happened at the big one, from what I'm understanding from you.
Yeah, it's funny. I from what I hear there, you hit the nail on the head, Ryan. I'm going to say you're right 100%. This was not the place to have a 1 hour lecture and then barely go over the game. They should have done an hour of game review with maybe real world examples behind their fake examples. Would have been much
100%.
better. I think they missed the boat. I think they missed their audience because, like I said, there were some meetings, there were some events I went to at CrimeCon that were literally just like a college classroom. You walked in, you talked about things like a college classroom, and then there were events that were fun. And then there were events that were kind of fun. But in signings and autographs and the dealer hall. But when it comes to what they did to you, I think they missed the mark, man. I think they completely missed a mark of, these are people here playing a game. Let's do the game and then talk about the science. And it sounds like they talked about the science and barely touched the game.
Yeah, because they ran out of time. They had an hour and a half to go do everything, and they spent an hour and 10 minutes going over the science. And so they had to rush the 20 minutes of the game and then the wrap up of they gave away some prizes, which are cool for those people that guessed it correctly. But we unfortunately were not that target audience for what they went with. I'm happy to understand what happened. I'm not sad I did it.
Yeah.
I'm not their target audience, and it's just not for me, unfortunately.
Now, and it even would have been fun as the host in me, right? DJ, the host in me wants to say, even the ones that were completely and utterly wrong should have had a showcase moment of, where in the world did you think they hit him with a pool cue? There was no pool cue in the room. You know what I mean? There had to have been some people that wrote some incredibly dumb stuff for fun that could have been humorous with the whole crowd.
There was one that was great, and what's the best part of the wrap up to me is there was a group in front of a couple seats in front of us that they came over to and said, "Oh, what did you think happened?" A little backstory is that the mom had some recipe that she never left her family, and the guy was cheating on his wife's sister or something.
Oh wow, it was way in depth.
Oh yeah, it was really weird. So since the guy was trying to get the recipe or something, so it's like the lady was like, "No, the recipe shall never leave the family."
Family secret. Family secret.
It was a family secret. So she was mad at the mom, and they were joking. They went over and killed the mom, then came over and killed the girlfriend or the wife. And they made all this up and went into it. It's like, no, this recipe is the family secret, and I started killing everybody. Not what happened, but it was really funny how they presented it and how it went. And that was probably, I hate to say that, their made up thing with all that was probably the best part of the wrap up for us.
Wow. So, and again, I bet if all the Awesome Connors just sat around comparing their notes, you probably would have had more fun.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just the other Connors. Like, what'd you pick? Why'd you pick that? Oh my gosh. Oh, that's funny. I saw this. I bet you guys would have had more fun than an hour lecture.
Oh, yeah. That could have been built into like, oh, you look at this blood splatter and then go, okay, talk about 3 different types of blood splatters. Wonderful. And then move on to the next thing, because there were 25 or 26 different evidence numbers, and they got glossed over so fast. We're like, what? Why do you think that happened?
Well,
explain that to us.
You win some, you lose some. And
yeah, that's right.
Case, it's a little bit of a loser. The only good thing is you're going to Origins this year.
Yes.
There'll be a lot better games to play.
I agree. 100%.
Oh, okay. Well, I brought us in, so I'll bring us home. Ryan, anything else that we're going to bid these good folks listening to us a great day?
Thank you for listening to us again. We're having a great time, and hopefully you are all too.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Bye.